Entertainment Networks is a multicultural and diverse world in one place, has celebrity supporters, and provides various entertainment services like branding, hosting, speaking, press kits, live interviews, and more. Just head over to www.chenllc.com to find out more. Thank you for your support. Greetings and blessings, everyone. This is yours truly, Empress Chassie Warmington, aka All That Chaz, aka Lupus Slayer. Okay, coming to you guys with a very sensitive, or what could be a very sensitive topic, and that is talking about deflecting instead of reflecting. And we all have done that where we did not want to own up to our faults, own up to doing something that we knew was wrong or bad, or and we try to justify it. Some people, they laugh it off. A lot of people actually do that when they get caught in stuff that they know is wrong. They laugh about it, and I'm not trying to be funny, but I know guys do it a whole lot. Guys are more quicker to laugh things off and really just go on another level with it. Women get violent. That's what I have witnessed when women, not all women, but I'm just saying the women, a lot of women that I have seen, when they get caught up in in deceit, or they do something wrong and somebody call them out on it, they become violent. They want to smash out windows, they want to fight, they want to, you know, attack. They just may have seen that a lot of times. So, but I see mostly guys instead of, I don't see too many guys that are really get physical like that. But what they will do is definitely laugh. If they'll laugh about it, they'll clown about it, they'll try to joke about it, make real light of the situation. And why do people do that? I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what is going on with my eyes. Um, I might have to take a break, put some eye drops in. But yeah, and thank you all for watching. Feel free to leave a comment. I cannot respond back in message, but I can respond back verbally to your comments. But why do we find ourselves deflecting? I mean, yeah, deflecting instead of reflecting. It could be many reasons why. I know for me growing up, I'd like to talk a lot about my experiences because I was raised in a very religious household, and it's not, I can't say that I wasn't taught about responsibilities and owning up to the responsibilities. I wasn't taught I wasn't taught constructively. I wasn't taught about conflict resolutions. I was always taught to turn the other cheek and, let the Lord fight my battles. But what they did is it, for me, I can speak for myself, for me, what it did is it put a sense of cockiness and arrogance in me that I didn't understand that I had at that time. I didn't understand that that was being proudful, that was being arrogant, um, and defensive. And it's really mostly a defense mechanism more than anything. And I'll give you a prime example. Okay, so the way I was raised, adults were automatically considered over the children. Your child, when an adult said you did something, there was no answer if what's the buts about it. You getting your butt whipped, point blank, period. My hair is just not doing right. I had it in a fro, but it's like it don't want to throw up, then it doesn't want to, I don't know, whatever. It's having this moment. But so I was never given really a fair opportunity to defend myself, which caused me to become defensive. So when I growing up with always just having to deal with people lying on me all the time, and I'm getting my ass whipped. I mean, like I was from the old school era where your parents sit you outside and you picked your own switches and they plat them switches up and beat your ass with them. That's the era I'm from. And it would happen when I get out the tub or when I'm asleep. I would come and get whippings. So that's why I knew it made my nerves bad. It caused those kind of things caused me to have anxiety and all these things I didn't understand and know when it was happening because I'm just a child. It caused me to have post traumatic stress disorder. It contributed to me having nightmares because I go to sleep and it's like I didn't know if I was going to be awakened by getting my ass whipped for something I have no idea why I'm getting my ass whipped about. So upbringing is really plays a major part in the way a person responds when they are if someone have to address them about something that they may have done wrong. And so I know the way I was the way things were for me and the way I was raised and the way I was taught to deal with situations or if somebody made an accusation against me, I did not know how to constructively deal with them. So because I was treated that way and it was because of religion. And I know a lot of people thinking that I'm bashing religion or whatever. I'm not bashing religion. I'm just letting you guys know what it did to me and how religion played a huge part in the way I was raised, in the way I was in the way I was taught to deal with things. So I didn't understand anything about conflict resolution. I didn't know what that was. I did not understand about deflecting and reflecting. That was never taught to me. So I learned a lot of these things as I became older and I started going through life experiences and I started, you know, having my own child or I had my own child being in relationships. Certain things start coming to me honestly, after I probably reached age 30, 35, other things start coming very clear to me. I'll be 48 this year. So I went a long time in a convoluted mindset. My mindset was very distraught. Um, how I perceive things, I didn't understand how to perceive things was because I just was never taught it. And I didn't know the difference. You know, I mean, like I would see things and I'd be like, oh shoot, that couldn't have been me. I'd be ready to fight. And I was a fighter, believe it or not. But I did go provoking fights. That was the difference. it didn't provoke fights. And to be honest, a lot of times I avoided fights, especially when I was like a teenager. I really didn't like to fight. I hated it because I had always dealt in such a tumultuous household where it was a lot of violence. And when I say violence, I'm not talking about my parents beating on each other or anything, but it was like a lot of arguing, combativeness, sibling, what people call sibling rivalry, which is not sibling rivalry. When you have a sibling that is violent towards you for no reason and bullies you, that creates a situation, especially when the parents are not putting a cap on it and they're allowing that sibling that to do you that way. So um, I was exposed to a lot of dysfunctionality and recklessness and violence growing up, even just unfortunately right in my own household. So I did not have structure, and only thing that I knew to do is I was always reactive. I was never proactive. I was counteractive in a way, but I was more so reactive, like impulsively reactive. And so I had a, I was really angry, and I didn't realize that I had as much anger and rage and bitterness in my spirit and in my heart as I did until I really became older and really started tapping into my own spirituality with connecting with the universe, connecting with nature, with and having no parts of religion at all. That's for me. And again, this is my for me. I That's when I start being able to see things in a clearer in clarity, because I did not know how to see things in clarity. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know the I didn't know there was options. I didn't know that I had a choice because I was never given choices when I was growing up. It was always demanded. This is what you're getting, point blank period. It's kind of like being enslaved, the slavery mentality. Let's just be realistic about it, because that's what the kidnappers did, and the people who was allowed to buy melanin people and enslave them, they didn't have a voice. The kidnapped people didn't have a choice. It was like they had to do whatever they were instructed to do, or there were physical harm consequences, even torture, dehumanizing, raping, beatings, killing. It was like major consequences. Now I'm grateful that it wasn't to the point where I died, but the disciplinary, the ways that religion taught my mom to discipline me, I could have died. I just put it to you this way, because you can't keep beating on a person, especially over stupid stuff or things that they didn't even do, which most of my beatings, I call them beatings because they call them whippings. No, that was beatings. Just because it was a switch doesn't mean it was whipping. Because when you start drawing blood and there's webs all over a person's body, they so sore they can't sit down, they can't even bathe because it's stinging. That's that's beating. And so I I was raised in that kind of environment. And a lot of people would say, I only thing that I will say, but I understand at the same time, my mom, when she got into religion, I mean, like really caught up in religion, she was at an extremely delicate and vulnerable place. And granted, I'm not making excuses for her, because this is my mom, and I don't want people to feel like she was a bad parent. She was just a naive parent. She was a gullible parent, where everything on the outside and her religion at the time was was her guide. because she was a lost cause, a lost soul too. When you're lost and somebody finds you and they start teaching you in the ways that they believe in their concepts, and you're very vulnerable and you're empty and you're destituted and you're lonely, it's so easy to brainwash a person and manipulate them. I know a lot of people are in abusive relationships right now because they were in a place of vulnerability and they got preyed upon, and now they're in these reckless and destructive marriages and relationships and abusive relationships and marriages, you know, and some even raise their children in that chaos. So it can and does have an effect. um I'm sorry guys, let me turn this down. But my mom, when she got caught up in religion, she was introduced to into religion by someone else who was really religious. And it just made her feel good because she had lost her husband. Man, she was there when he died as well. Me, my mom, and my siblings was at his bedside. The man that I know is my dad. When I was maybe like 7, 8 years old, this man died in front of me. So he was put on life support, but I didn't understand what that was as a child. I didn't know what life support was or nothing like that. I just thought they had him in the bed and he was dead. You know, I was like, I thought buried. I knew that much that when people die, they're supposed to be buried, but they never buried him. So I didn't understand that, but I didn't know that he died, and they came in and they threw us out the room, and they hooked him up, and all this stuff. He was in a coma. I don't know if it was a medical induced coma, if it was a coma he went into himself. I don't know how that happened. The only thing I know is that he was dead. He died. And we were all standing there when it happened. We were all holding hands. Oh, I'm getting emotional. I didn't know it was gonna feel like this. Oh God. Whew. So as devastating as it was for me to be there and watch the man that I knew was my dad die in front of me, and I know how it hurt me and how it just had me as a child, as a child feeling so lost, and I felt betrayed. I felt like I wasn't worthy. I felt empty. So if I was feeling like that as a child, I can only imagine how my mom felt with her relationship and the dynamic of her relationship to my dad. I miss him. And I know if I had my dad with me, if he would have lived, a lot of things I wouldn't have experienced because he was very protective. I have to say that he was a very protective dad, overly protective. But oh gosh, I didn't even know I was gonna. Oh, see, I'm glad that you guys think this is genuine. It's not something that's written or scripted. But I can just only imagine how empty my mom felt, and she was so vulnerable. And I didn't realize that at the time, because again, like I'm a little girl, I didn't understand a lot of things. Just some things, even if I knew, I didn't understand. So she was brainwashed by people who use religion, and they use the religion to brainwash her and manipulate her and take advantage of her. And because of that, it was so bad that they were literally telling her how to live her life and how to even raise us. And when they realized that she was that gullible, that empty, that loss, they really did take advantage of her. They ran over my mom. That's why, being older and understanding that, I don't have any hatred in my heart towards my mom. I hate the people who caused her to become that way, because my mom, before religion, she was not like that. And when I say religion, I'm talking about like extremely religious, because we were already in a Baptist church at the time. When my Before my dad died, he was, we all went to the same Baptist church. And actually, that's how my mom met him. Their friend that is religious, who was Baptist, she took my mom to the Baptist church, and then they met. So um, I was too young at the time when they first originally met and stuff. I don't know. Maybe I was like 2 or 3. I don't know. I was really young. Only thing I remember is by the time I was able to really recognize faces and remember things, I remember that this man was there. That was my dad, and that was it. So because of that, the dynamics of how my mom was swayed, she turned around and she implemented that in her household. And even though she was seeing that it was not, that it was causing turmoil in the household, she continued on with it, because the religious people was telling her, "Oh, that's just the devil. Oh, that's just the devil in your children, trying to make your children rebel against you. The devil, the enemy will use your own children against you. He says that your worst enemies, is those of your own household. Stand your ground. Don't let them tell you what to do. Don't." And it was nothing of that sort. It was like they were creating this idea that somehow me and my siblings were her enemies, and that we were being rebellious, not that we were being children. And children who are learning or still growing and still experiencing things in life, and that needed guidance, not religion. Religion is not guidance. And so I was raised to just be very submissive. And because if I wasn't submissive, I wasn't if I didn't turn the other cheek, I was always ridiculed and beaten. At the times that I did fight back or tried to fight back, I got way worse. And I remember I was lied on really bad. And that has happened several times, especially growing up. And the accusations was so just absolutely repulsive and just so out of pocket. I just figured, my mom knows me. There's no way this person can sit up here and lie on me like this. And I'm telling my mom, no, I was trying to, rather should say, I was trying to tell her that it wasn't, and she wasn't hearing me at all. So because I never had a voice growing up, I was never allowed to have a voice. That's probably why I talk so dang on much now. What y'all think? But seriously, though, I never was allowed to have a voice. I was never allowed to have an opinion. I was never, all of those things religion was teaching her was sin, is evilness, is wickedness, is the devil using me to rebel and using me to distract her and all of this stuff. That's what it was. That's what she was taught. So when I would try to explain myself, when I would try to defend myself, I got beat for it. I got punished for it. So that shaped and molded me to be a very submissive person. And I was submissive to the point where it became also um, it became dangerous for me and destructive. It became where I was sabotaging my life and didn't realize I was sabotaging my life. It was to the point where I was where I had became so empty and so void. It is so vulnerable that any kind of attention I got, even if it was bad and negative attention, it didn't matter. If somebody was able or willing to just sit there, it allowed me to have an opinion, to allow me to express myself. I felt like I was in a good place. That made me very vulnerable to predatory men, grown ass men that I didn't know anything about statutory rape. I didn't know anything about gang banging. I didn't know anything about those things until it, rape, until it, gang banging, rapes, and stuff like that, till it happened to me. Yes, I was gang bang raped at an early age. I was raped by grown men. I didn't know that that's what it was because I was never taught. See, religion didn't teach my mom those things. It didn't teach me any of those things. We didn't know about that because when me was growing up, when a female, with a little girl or a teenage girl accused a man of raping her, or a boy, even if it's a boy in her same age group or younger, but was old enough to, penetrate, you know, raped her, forced himself on her. I always saw every single time I saw the female get beat, get cussed out. People in the neighborhood, in the community, treated her like she was dirt. Even the women, nobody would believe her. So when I seen that, and even let me tell you, I had one older guy that used to pray on me almost on a daily basis because he had access to me. He always had access to me. And he flat out told me, he said, you couldn't even go. He's like, you can't tell nobody because they're not going to believe you. All I'm going to do is tell them you was acting up and I got on you and you were upset about it because I got on you and wouldn't let you have your way. So you're lying on me. This grown ass man told me this. And I knew it was true because I saw how that happened to other little girls in the neighborhood and other teenage girls when they was raped. They, instead of them being nurtured, they were called fast, they were called hot in the ass, they were called all kind of degrading names, slut, promiscuous. They were calling them all these names and completely ignoring what they're saying happened to them. So even when the cops was called, the cops never did anything. They never investigated, never tried to investigate it because most of the at that time when I was growing up, see, that's the only downfall with having when you police your own community. There's a lot of biasness in it. So if you make an accusation against somebody, whether it's male or female, if there's too much biasness period with that person, they're not going to believe when you tell others, they're not going to believe you because of who that person is or the way they feel that person is. So they're not going to tell them. What they're going to do is they're going to go to that person first and they're going to sit down and have a conversation. Can you believe such and such said you did this, that, and the other to them? Of course they're going to deny it. Of course. So for me, the way I was, the experiences like that happened to me caused me to deflect and not reflect. And I didn't understand that I was doing that at that time. So I could be caught in the act of doing something. I would be sitting there lying my ass off. No, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Nope, I didn't do it. It's just like how cops see people when they do like debate cars, which I didn't like that because they always just went to certain neighborhoods. They always went to the rough, low income, povertized neighborhoods, even though people do stuff like that in the suburban neighborhoods and upclass neighborhoods, but they didn't want to go there because, that's a whole different topic. But, excuse me, growing up, so it's like how, cops set these sting operations and they watch it and they got all this concrete proof. You can have the concrete proof on me and I would still deny it because I was just so at that time. I just psychologically snapped and didn't have no sense of reality. Like My reality was raised on lies and fictionality and fiction. That's all I knew. And deceit and dysfunctionality. That's all I knew. And that's how I became. And even those who accused me, who were my accusers, guess what? They were doing the same thing. But that's what I'm talking about with the biasness comes in to play. And I'm going to be honest, there was colorization against melanin children even then because I was so dark skinned. I didn't get the same treatments as some of my cousins that were lighter than me or my siblings that were lighter than me. I remember clear as day. It's a shame. I'm 47 now. I'll be 48 this year. And I can vividly remember this pastor sitting me down, looked me square in my eyes with my mom present right there. Looked me square in my eyes when I was a little girl, maybe 8. I haven't too long lost my dad. And this person sat me down and looked me square in my eyes and told me that I was an ugly duckling, a grown ass woman, good and grown ass woman, saying this to a little child because I was dark skinned. But the thing about it, it wasn't just because I was dark skinned. I was dark skinned and I was kind of chubby, still chubby. I don't care. So I was not looked upon as something pretty, something lovable. And that shaped and molded me to respond or or deflect and not respond to things. So when people deflect, it can be different reasons. And it can be reasons that we would never think has anything to do with it, but it does. And so I would, because a lot of people, majority of the people who would wrong me never had any, was never penalized for it. They never had any repercussions. I just grew up thinking that I was not worthy. I grew up very defensive. I had a very defensive attitude. So, and we're going to get into the constructive criticism and just the picking on someone and bullying them and criticizing them unnecessarily. Okay. So I did not understand what constructive criticism was. I did not understand any of those things. So I was always guarded. And being when you're always guarded, it's easy to always deflect instead of reflecting because I never knew that I needed to reflect um, on myself and my actions, my reactions, my counteractions. I didn't know about those things until I became, like I said, probably over 30 or over 35 years of age. 30, 35 years of age. I didn't understand those things. Um, so my experiences in life though, especially particularly on jobs, that's when I really start learning and growing and having a sense of understanding because I didn't have any sense of understanding at the time. Um, my understanding was that at the time, because again, the way my mind was at that time, my sense of understanding before I learned better and started gaining wisdom and understanding, knowledge and understanding, because you got to have all three. You got to have all three. Um, was that if somebody did you wrong, Or if somebody says something to you that you don't like, even if it's the truth, you cuss them out, you fight them, you get really disrespectful because that's all I was exposed to. And that's all that happened to me. When I would call people out on stuff that they did wrong to me, I was cussed out, I was bullied, I was taunted, I was beaten, I was, treated like dirt. So I started withdrawing, but it got to the point where I got tired of withdrawing, and I was just developing. I just started storing up anger and rage because it's like I couldn't win from losing. I couldn't defend myself. I didn't know how to defend myself at that time. So I would just lash out on any and everybody. You looked at me sideways, I'll curse you out. If you said something to me that I didn't like, you were going to get cussed out. I was going to be ready to fight. I didn't care. I would jump out cars and stuff. I remember, but this one was kind of justified. I remember these races. We were at a traffic light. Um, I had to jump. I had to at the traffic light, and these races, they were. It was I was a teenager, and they were hollering. They rolled down their windows and started yelling racial obscenities. And I'd never experienced racism until I moved into this. Till my mom moved us into this particular area. It's in Clayton County, and that's when I really felt had my real first taste of racism. I never really experienced it. If I did, I don't remember it. But I do remember once we moved to Clayton County, I started experiencing racism on another level. So it was this car, it was two guys, and it was a girl in it, Caucasian. And by this time, I was so full of anger and rage. But I would never. The thing is, I wasn't going to be the type to just try to fight somebody. Um, and I don't know what it was, but it wasn't just that, but they were getting out the car trying to. Well, it was particularly mainly the girl. She wanted to get out the car. She coming up to the car, you know, the window is up, of course, and she's trying to taunt or whatever, whatever. I don't know what it was, but something snapped. Something completely snapped to me. That was the first time that I really lost control. Like, was in such a rage and had so much just expressing so much anger and rage that I had in me. I don't know how I did this to this state. I picked that car up. I kid you not, I picked the car up. It was a small car anyway. I think it was like a four-door Toyota Corolla or something. Or it was some little small car. I don't know how I did that because she, of course, ran back in and she wanted to lock the doors. And I almost flipped the car. And it terrified them so that, and then in my mind, I'm in such a rage, I'm not even thinking about the danger that I put myself in. That all they have to do is smash on that gas pedal and I would have been done. But luckily, they had put the car in park because we're at a traffic light, and this traffic light was like holding forever in a day. And they had the car in park. So the guy was mashing on the accelerator, but the car wasn't moving anywhere. And the way the car was, I guess he didn't want a chance to put it in drive because he didn't know what was going to happen. So he just kept it in park. And I banged on the window so hard with my arms that it shattered the windows. And I yanked the girl. I had her by her hair. By this time, the friends, they're like, go, 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 the light's green, go. And the light was green, but I had such a grip on this girl. I was dragging her out. And he was the passenger, one of the male passengers, he was pulling her back. He was I'm pulling on her. One way trying to pull her back in the car, and I'm pulling, and I'm just like in a rage, right? So that was, to me, I don't know, that shook me up because I never felt myself be like that. I didn't like how that felt. I didn't like feeling having so much anger in me, that enraged that I would do that. Even though I was provoked, I still, the way that I responded, I never responded ever to anybody like that. And it terrified me. It shook me up. It really did. It bothered me. And I found myself after that incident happened, I just never wanted to fight anybody. I would just let people beat me. I really did. I wouldn't fight nobody back. I just, whatever. I didn't care. I was in a really empty, dark place. And even more so than where I was, because I never saw myself capable of behaving in such manner. Especially, I it wasn't even necessarily the words. It was that when she jumped out the car and she was hitting on the window, that's when I think I snapped. But even still, I was just tired of people picking on me and bothering me, and I snapped. And so, even with that situation, and some people would be like, well, that's what she got. She shouldn't have got jumped out her car trying to attack you anyway. But she did. She pulled the door handle and everything, like she was trying to get into the car. But once she got in her car, when she was heading back to her car, she got inside the car. You know, I didn't have to get out the car, but they had their windows down. They kept hollering these racial slurs and obscenities, and I just lost it. But I didn't like the way that made me feel. So when we would go out to the clubs, me and my friends, I would never fight. They thought I was a coward, they'd be like, oh, you punked out and stuff. I'm not going to just be fighting people just to be fighting. Y'all may want to brawl and be in that kind of destructive life. I'm tired of it. I don't want to fight no more. I'm tired of fighting. I've always had to fight. Always, since I was a little girl, I had to fight boys in the neighborhood because they were mannish and bad as hell, and they would do little stupid stuff to girls and be disrespectful to girls, and then you couldn't go to nobody because they wouldn't even suffer no real consequences behind it. So it was just like, that, and then dealing with grown ass people lying on me and treating me any kind of way. I think I was just numb, and I just wanted it to go away. So I maybe at that moment I was feeling like, I think I was just psychologically and mentally and spiritually and emotionally drained and exhausted, that I don't even think I had enough strength to even fight anybody back. I just didn't care. And that opened me up to become very vulnerable to all kinds of stuff. And that's going to be in a different episode, but I'm mentioning all these things because those experiences in my life were the reasons that I started deflecting and never wanting to reflect. Because because in order for me to reflect, I would have had to face all of the stuff that I went through. And I know that most people would look at it as just an excuse, because you do have people that like to use their past as an excuse to get away with doing things that was wrong. But that wasn't the case for me. I never tried to use my past experience to do things wrong. That was never the case. Um, because to be honest, I wasn't a bad person that would like go out there and just gang bang and do all that kind of crazy stuff. So I didn't have any need to um I didn't have any need to make up stuff to get out of trouble, to get out of how can I put it? Oh, to try to justify certain things. I was just empty, and I had a lot of anger, and so I found out ways to pay people back in ways. I found ways to hurt them without becoming physically violent towards them, and I'll start doing those things. still not understanding that one day I'm going to have to reflect back on these things, and I'm going to have to face what I did to people. And going through those experiences in my life, I didn't understand that I was going to have to stop deflecting and start reflecting. Um, and I didn't understand how to do that either. You know, granted, we didn't understand how to do that. And a lot of people are in that place where they just don't know how. So when they do something wrong to somebody, they are, and the thing about it, it's one thing to do somebody wrong, but when you're habitually and purposely doing things wrong to others, you are you have become completely heartless. You are a heartless person, and you lack decency, and you lack morals. You lack um, principles, and you lack pride. Because let me tell you, there's a difference. There's ignorant pride, and then there's just decent pride. You lack the decent pride. You're not a decent person. I don't care how many people you're able to manipulate and deceive and allow, and that even some who may even allow you to treat them that way because they're lost. Let me tell you, when people lack confidence and they're lost, they will allow people to treat them any kind of way. And they will accept that kind of behavior and conduct, because when you can't expect somebody who's dysfunctional to be able to thrive in functionality until they become functional. So let's just be realistic about it, okay? So don't give yourself a pat on the back because you're able to run around here and treat people in any kind of way thinking you're getting off with it. There's a thing called karma. That's why, like, I keep telling people, you got to think about like all of this crazy stuff that's been going on, and you think about certain things that happen to people. Is it karma coming back on them in a way that they never expected it to? You think about some of the stuff you did as a child or when you were younger, and when you were old enough to know better and be accountable and be held accountable for your actions. You think about the things that you did. Is it now playing out? Is the karma now playing out through your children, through your job, through your career? Why are you experiencing certain things? Is it playing out through your marriage, your relationship, your health? You got to Karma always have a way of coming back. It always do. And it comes back in a way that nobody can help you. That's the thing. Like puts when karma puts its foot on your neck, can't nobody take it off until karma is ready to release it. All right. But I'm so grateful that, not because I've suffered so much. I'm definitely not. I mean, I'm not grateful for that at all. I hate when people try to be so. I know they try to be modest and they, be deep and stuff, but realistically, nobody in their right mind want to sit up there and suffer and go through a lot of hardness and hurt and pain. Nobody want to go through that. Not to me. Nobody wants to just be abused or treated any kind of way. Nobody just want to have those kind of experiences voluntarily. I don't think anybody would volunteer to have somebody beat on them, drag them down the road, punch them, spit on them, cuss them out and degrade them in front of people, rape them in front of people. I don't think anybody would volunteer to do that. If they do, something has to really be psychologically wrong with them. So I don't I'm not glad that I had those experiences in, for that sense, but I'm glad I had the experiences to be able to gain the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we have now as to why people deflect instead of reflect. Um, I put it to you this way: think about the government. You got to understand these people are masters of deflecting because they have had over 5 centuries of strategizing and doing people wrong, imposing, enforcing enforcing laws on people and bullying people. They've had over 5 years experience of, I mean, over 5 centuries of experience, even over 6, 7 longer, you know, years of centuries of experiences and opportunities to do this. So they have set up this form. Is look at the laws. These laws have been set in etched in stone by bullies, by people who had entitlement attitudes, and you have those who would like to enforce them, even though the ones that should not be enforced because they're biased and they are wrong and they are dehumanizing, they're also a violation of people's human rights. They don't want to change it because in order for them to change it, they would have to reflect on all of the bad ish that was done to people for those laws to be set in place in the first place. So instead of reflecting, they deflect. You know, they deflecting. They're going to deflect it on this. They're going to deflect it on that. Oh well, this if we wouldn't have these certain things in place, then these groups of people would have accomplished this by now, or these foreigners would have accomplished that by now. When it is amazing how those who created these injustices and these unfair laws, these systemic oppressive laws and stuff and systems are immigrants, are the true immigrants. They came over here illegally. They're the true foreigners. But because it was a group of them and they collabed together, they worked together, they created this dynamic. Okay. And still to date, how even with those who they favor, then that's where the biasness come in, like number 45, instead of them reflecting, they're deflecting. You know, they calling the rioters militants instead of calling them what they really are, supremacists, racists. They don't want to call them what it is. They're still deflecting, not reflecting. So upbringing, the way a person is taught, um, lack of conflict of knowledge and understanding of conflict resolution, willful pride and ignorance and stupidity. Excuse me. Having a bullying attitude, being a bully, being arrogant, being conceited, being cocky, very egotistical, being very biased, and definitely entitled are the main reasons people deflect instead of reflect. Because one thing about reflecting, you have to always face the not so good things. You know, most people, they want to feel good. They just want to be praised. They just want accolades. They just want people to gloat over them. If they're not being gloated over, if they're not receiving praises and accolades, pats on the backs, you know, thumbs ups, you know, kudos, they don't want to be bothered with it. And that's why you have people who get in relationships and these relationships fall apart, these marriages fall apart because these people are so selfish. People who do this, that is, they're so selfish and self-centered that they don't care about the full dynamics of what they're doing. They don't care about who is hurt behind their selfishness and who is hurt by them deflecting. You know, it's like, okay, I'm not a licensed counselor, but I call myself a counselor because a lot of people come to me about their advice. And because of the experiences that I've had in my life, I'm more than qualified to counsel people. Believe you me. And and even there's people that is qualified to counsel me. You don't need a degree for that because certain things you can you have to experience in life to it's give you a better perspective because you have dealt with those emotions and those feelings and those challenges to pull yourself out of those dark places and deal with the psychological and mental and spiritual and emotional effects that those kind of things have. A person going to a college and getting a degree in sociology does not give them those experiences. So that's why I say that. But anyway, I've had people come to me and they talk to me about their marriage, their relationships, and it's always two sides. And so when people call, the thing is, you can't always, if somebody is telling you, I put it to this way, I'm going to use this. There's always, anytime there's a topic about men and women, all right, you'll have a group of women that says this particular thing, that they have experienced this mostly with this particular group of men. Then you'll have the men, they say they have experienced this mostly by a particular group of women. And neither of those things are good things or positive things. They feel degrading and they feel belittling and insulting, needless to say, right? But just because they are saying negative things and bad things does not mean that you are that they are picking on you or trying to put you down as a person. They're just telling you their experiences and what the treatments that they have received. So if somebody is telling you, you treated me this, that, and the third, and they're telling you verbatimly what you did to them, and you know that it's true, why then get upset and put up your defenses and want to deflect and be like, well, you did such and such. It should I put it to this way, some people especially in relationships, they don't bring up what the other person has done wrong to them or what they felt is wrong or felt is disrespectful until the other person calls them out. Say for instance, if I'm in a relationship with a guy and he does something to me that is wrong, that's truthfully wrong, not just me being emotional or nitpicking, but he did some real foul ish, and I tell him what he did, and I let him know how it made me feel. Then he turns around and says, "Well, you be doing this and you act like that. Why do you have to deflect instead of reflecting? Why you can't just acknowledge that you did wrong and that you were in the wrong for something, instead of trying to deflect it and try to make me feel guilty and make it somehow my fault that you committed the offense that you committed? How about reflecting on your actions instead of trying to deflect by blaming me or some kind of way trying to fault me for a conscious intentional decision that you made to do something or to say something that you knew was wrong?" Let's see, I got a comment. It is very narcissistic behavior. Quinta, thanks for watching. And so, there's a lot of people, and I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for that. And a lot of people do have narcissistic, mindsets. And they don't realize that they have narcissistic mindsets because people never even heard the word narcissistic. And some people, if they saw the word, they wouldn't even be able to pronounce it anyway. But yeah, so a lot of people don't know how to do anything else but deflect because they were never taught structure. They were never taught about conflict resolution. They were never held accountable for the wrongs that they've done. And I'm not talking about in a belittling way, like how I explained my experiences as a child early in the video. But when someone, it's like when a person does not know how to take accountability for their actions and they don't understand what that means, then they get in a pattern, in a cycle of constantly deflecting, where and then say for instance, sometimes parents inadvertently does that. They teach deflecting to their children. Let me tell you how. You'll have parents that'll do something wrong, like they may do and say things that they know are wrong, and their children watching them. And if the child do it, then they get on the child. Don't be cursing. Don't be smoking. Don't be drinking. Don't be doing that. Well, I do it because you do it. Well, I'm grown. I can do it because I'm grown. You just deflect it instead of reflecting, because your child called you out on something that that you did, that created and caused them to do the exact same thing that you did. Now you on the defense, and got you, and enough being kind of all offensive, and instead of reflecting, you deflecting. You can't say, well, because I'm grown, I can curse somebody out. I can talk to people in a kind of way. I can be rude and disrespectful. You can't do that and then tell your child not to do that. You see, contradictory also is a part of why people deflect instead of reflecting. Because I have seen that in so many households where parents do that. They deflect instead of reflecting. And they make excuses for their bad behaviors instead of reflecting and facing the reality that their behaviors are out of pocket and they do need to do better. So, yeah, we have people that do that kind of stuff, and they're taught that, and parents inadvertently and unintentionally teach their children how to be deflective instead of reflective. So when their child do something bad to someone, oh well, they said something I didn't like, so I just smacked them in the mouth. Well, they shouldn't be mouthing out to me. That's not a reason to put your hands on somebody, you know. And so, you got children. They grow up. That you got to understand that behavior and that kind of mindset is going to challenge them all the way up to their adulthood until they learn better, if they ever learn better, or if they're ever willing to learn better. Because it took a long time for me to learn better. I didn't start learning better till I was like 35 years of age. Um, so I'm almost. It took, let's see, a little over. It's been now a century. I mean, I'm talking about a century, a decade later. And because I had those experiences and I learned better and chose to do better, I'm able to now teach other people and expose this kind of toxic, dysfunctional behavior that has been normalized and has been accepted as normal good behavior, when it's not. It is not normal and good behavior. It is very dysfunctional, extremely dysfunctional behavior, and it's very terrible and bad behavior. That's why people don't have any respect hardly anymore. That's why people are very comfortable bullying other people or being disrespectful to other people. They're very comfortable with it and they don't see any problem with it, because this dysfunctional things and bad things have been normalized so much and ignored that it has become a cycle. And this cycle been started since, you know the beginning of as they call civilization. Look at the laws. There's a lot of unjust laws, and a lot of people who set these laws are very narcissistic people. As Kenta stated, narcissistic behaviors. You got a lot of people that has that kind of behavior. So we have nations that have been established on this type of behavior, deflecting instead of reflecting. You think those kidnappers, knowing that kidnapping people and forcing people into free labor, forcing them to be breeders of children, and forcing them to constantly have babies so that they can have more people to do free labor for them, they know that that's wrong. But because it has become normalized for them and acceptable behavior, they deflect. Instead of saying we're wrong, they deflect. They still doing that now. They do it with police brutality all the time. You got these chief of police sitting up here knowing good and damn well that they police officer was dead ass wrong and was out of order. And instead of them reflecting, they would deflect. They'll go to, they'll go to the point to try to find any little thing. It could be a man that's 60 years old. He may have did something when he was 12, 13 years old, was in juvenile. Instead of them, because they don't want to reflect, they would literally go all the way back and try to find any little thing and find something. Oh, well, he was a juvenile when he was 12, 13 years old. He was a juvenile for stealing or for fighting or for smoking marijuana. They'll go all the way far back to try to justify the inappropriate conduct and behavior of this officer instead of reflecting and making the department better, teaching better, making these officers accountable, making them behave better. Instead of reflecting, they deflect on the citizen, on the victim. And this has been a constant behavior that has penetrated through society for so long that it's become a normalized behavior for many. And many don't see a problem with it. And they can't because they desensitized to it. And, we just have to learn to be better people. And even if somebody don't like for you to call them out on stuff, if they wronging you or they doing something wrong, and you call them out. It's just like the protesters. Look at when the protesters, when they protest, what happens? The law want to now get involved. They want to come. They'll be more angry at the people for calling them out on they stuff, even just a simple traffic stop or a violation of a person's right. You got these cops that be violating people's rights all the time. They get upset. Instead of reflecting, they deflect and they get violent. They get very arrogant, cocky, and start bullying and pushing their authority and power around, even to the point where they just murder and kill people for no reason. They murder and kill people over their pride because they don't want to reflect. They want to deflect. So their way of deflecting is to kill and murder somebody for no reason. And this, there's so many different reasons why people rather deflect than reflect. But until people learn to reflect, the way society is going, it's not going to get no better. It's a choice. You don't have to be taught or raised up in it. I wasn't taught it and raised up in it, but I learned better and I chose to do better. It's a choice. So I don't want nobody to talk about, well, that wasn't the way I was raised. Well, that's all I know. Well, I wasn't raised that way. That was all I knew. But when I got older and I had enough experiences in life, and then there's a thing that is called a conscience. If you have one, there's a thing called morals and principles. If you honor and respect them, would teach you. If you, as a matter of fact, if you really have love in your heart, if you truthfully a loving person, if you really, if a person who is incapable of reflecting is incapable of truly loving somebody. Because in order for you to truthfully love someone, I mean, like truthfully love them. I'm not talking about that high infatuation that feels like true love. Then you would know and understand the importance of reflecting than deflecting. Because in order for you to truthfully love, the first person you have to learn how to truthfully and know how to truthfully love is yourself. So anything that is about you that needs to be reflected upon and needs to be changed for the better, you want to do it instead of deflecting. That way you can be a better person and you can be the best version of you possible. And a lot of people don't want to be the best version of themselves. They want to be like everybody else, though. They'll go out here, buy all these accessories. They'll buy the sneakers. They'll buy the kicks. The women buy their hair, buy their clothes, and stuff. They try to look like these celebrity and Instagram models. They'll get the plastic surgery. They get all of this stuff. The guys will get all this bling, bling stuff, get these Hellcats and all these kind of cars to try to reflect an image and make themselves look grand instead of just working on themselves, because that's a way of them deflecting instead of reflecting. I want to be like somebody else. I'm going to deflect I'm not going to be me because I don't like the real me. I don't like who the real me is. And I know that in order for me to reflect, I have to reflect, I have to face myself. So a lot of people don't want to do that. They rather adopt to something else that is not that's not genuine and that's not true. So if you're not genuine and true to yourself, how you gonna be genuine and true to me? Y'all think about that when y'all get in a relationship, okay? When y'all meet somebody, if they can't be genuine and true to themselves, if they can't acknowledge and highlight their imperfections and their character flaws and reflect on themselves, they are not going to be able to, they're not going to be capable of being a real, true mate for you or anybody else. Because what's going to end up happening, you're going to end up being in a dysfunctional relationship. And a lot of people are comfortable with that. They're so comfortable with being in a dysfunctional relationship. You got a wife who disrespects her husband. She curses him out in the supermarket. She talks to him like a dog in front of his family, treats him any kind of way, and she's perfectly fine with it. She think it's fine and it's comfortable. Well, he my husband. He know I mean well and stuff. He know this is how I am. This is how I am, and it's just very disrespectful to him. And he's accepting it because he's dysfunctional himself. Because if he wasn't, there's no way he'll stand there and stay with a woman who's going to dog him out and treat him like he's nothing. Okay? He's not. Because he's going to have too much love and have too much self value, understand his self worth and self value because he has true, genuine self love. So he's not going to stay in a relationship or a marriage where he's intentionally being disrespected by someone that he's given his all and his love and heart to. She doesn't deserve it. So instead of her reflecting, she'll deflect. Well, he let me do. Well, he need to have a backbone. Well, he'll be all right. He know that's just how I am. Instead of her reflecting on herself and her bad behavior and knowing that she needs to do better, she rather just try to make excuses for it. No, no, you don't do stuff like that. Thank you, Kendra. I mean, Kenta, I'm sorry. So we have to make up in our hearts and minds who we really want to be. Do we want to be ourselves or do we want to be a figment of ourselves? And a lot of people don't even know who they are. I did a video about that yesterday morning. It's called Shadowing Others Lost Self Identities. That's the title. Shadowing Others Lost Self Identities. Because a lot of people don't know who they are as a person. I'm not talking about what they do, what they've experienced in life, but who they are as a person. A lot of people don't know who they are as a person. What they do is they tell you their titles. I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a sister, I'm a brother. Oh, I'm a CEO, or I'm an entrepreneur. That's telling your titles and your life experiences. But who are you? Somebody asked me, be like, Chaz, who are you? Oh, I'm a funny, charismatic person. I'm real silly. I am loving. I love pets and stuff. I'm very gentle. I'm very sensible and patient and reasonable. See, I'm telling people about myself, about my character. But a lot of people don't understand that. I don't even have to think twice about it. I can just pop it off. I don't have to think about when somebody asks me, tell me about yourself. They just say, tell me about your job. Tell me, what you do. Tell me who you are, what kind of titles you have. That's not what they ask me to tell me them about myself. Tell me about yourself. And when most people hear somebody ask them that question, they go into, oh, I'm a mother. I'm a proud mother of 5 children. Oh, I'm a proud father of 5 beautiful children. I have 2 girls and 2 boys. They didn't ask you anything. They said about yourself. That means your persona, your character. Who are you as an individual? But people don't know who they are as an individual. So if they don't know who they are, how are they going to appreciate who you are as an individual? And people don't think about these things when they get in relationships. And I'm not talking about just intimate relationships and marriages, but I'm talking about also in business, in friendships. You have to know who you are as an individual, because based on how on that person's character, you would know whether or not that's going to be something that you're going to be able to tolerate, and that you will be able to accept that kind of that person being that way as a friend. If you know you got a friend that likes to game bang and that loves guns and drugs and like that love that street life, and you know you're told the opposite of that, and you like peace and serenity, you don't want to have to be looking over your shoulder because you hang around with somebody who's living a very reckless lifestyle and dangerous lifestyle, then you don't need to be having that kind of person around you in your life. I'm just saying. And a lot of women make excuses for that. Women are more guilty of that than anybody. Women would be with guys that they know live these dangerous. And I'm not talking about this because he smoked ganja, but he's selling it. He's a game banger. He's out there doing reckless stuff. He's out there, stealing and doing crazy stuff that he should be doing. And a lot of times they already have an extensive criminal background, and they'll still put themselves and their children, who are usually not even the biological children of that person, of that man, but they'll put their children as well as themselves in harm's way by allowing this individual to be around them and their children, and especially when they move them in. Now, their enemies, their rival gang members know that he lives there with you. So even if don't see him, because he know that you're connected to him, whether you have your children in the car or not, or whether your children in the house or not, they're going to come and spray it. That's why children get killed all the time. I just saw this video on YouTube, and I think the incident may have happened last year, and it was in Louisiana, where this guy pulled up, and these guys jumped out the car at a gas station. They jumped out the car and they shot him up. They were shooting up at his car. They end up killing him instantly. Then don't you know, because they know who his girlfriend is, and they know her car and her tag, they followed her. They after they shot him up, they jumped back in their car and they proceeded to go find her, even though the children were in the car with her. They still went after her as well. I'm grateful that they didn't catch her, but the fact is, they put when you hang around people who are deflective and not reflective, depending on the lifestyle they live, it will have a direct impact on you as well. It do and can. Because even though she don't have anything to do with the beef they have, just because she's around him and he lives with her, they know that this is girl. They went after her too. And so um, I know for me, I'm just not going to be around anybody like that if I can help it. If I know that a person, whether male or female, is in crazy lifestyles like that, I'm not going to be around them. I'm not going to associate myself with them, because I don't want nobody to be even doing business. I'm not going to even do business with them if I know that's the kind of lifestyle they're in. The reason why, because even though you're just a business partner, they will let me tell you about these fools. In their minds, they'll assume that you are some kind of way affiliated, or that you have some knowledge of it. Um, I don't know if you guys know that Serena and Venus have siblings, because their daddy was a Rolling Stone, Papa was a Rolling Stone for real, okay? He had a lot of other children while he was married to their mother. But anyway, one of their sisters, their oldest sister, as a matter of fact, she has a vehicle that is the same type of vehicle, make and model, that these gangbangers was looking for an individual that has that kind of vehicle. So the stupidity of these gangbangers, just to show how ignorant and stupid they choose to be, because this person, Serena's and Venus' older sister, was driving this car, that is the same make and model as a gang rivalry. They just shot up the car, killing her. And I think the guy was injured. It was mistaken identity solely based on the type of vehicle. They only saw the vehicle and assumed because it's the same kind of vehicle. I mean, can you tell me the epitome of stupidity, right? Those are people who deflect and not reflect because they don't care. There's you go in any car lot, go to a Ford car lot, Mercedes, Benz, you're going to see a lot of the exact same type of vehicles in the same colors and everything. So you mean to tell me just because I'm riding down the street and I'm in the same kind of vehicle as somebody who you got a problem with, you're going to shoot up my vehicle? But that's the mindset of people who likes to deflect instead of reflect because they don't care about who they are as a person because they don't even know who they are as a person. Their identity lies in them being a game banger. And they think they have accomplished something because they're able to to get a gun and shoot, because they're able to sling drugs, because they're able to, game bang. They think that that's who they are, that's their persona, that's how they value themselves. And they always deflect instead of reflecting. Well, the system, they make it hard for a brother or they make it hard for a sister. Da, 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 da. They make all of these same excuses. Well, how about, I know you may not want to do it. Why don't you just go into the reserves? I mean, to be honest, I'm not a fan. I'm not anti-military, but if that's something that you have to do to get yourself through school or whatever, because you don't have the finances or resources any other way, why not just go into the military? Why won't you go to a trade, go to a technical college and get you a trade and work and honest day job and learn skill sets that you can then take and start your own business using those skill sets? Why you can't do that? They don't want to do that because you got people who likes to deflect. They and don't like to take accountability and responsibility for their wrong behaviors. They rather deflect than reflect. They are usually reckless. They usually are reckless people. And they normally sabotage good relationships. They normally are bullies. They're usually very disrespectful, very heartless, careless people. Most people who deflect, you think about it. I mean, think about people who are always deflecting. They're very selfish, self-centered. They have tunnel vision. So, I mean, it's just so much that can be said about this. And I'm already an hour, almost hour and a half into this. And I do appreciate you guys who watch. And I'm going to go ahead and conclude this segment, this episode. But you know, don't let nobody cause you to feel guilty for reflecting on yourself. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength because it takes a lot of strength to face yourself in the mirror and acknowledge you're wrong, to face yourself in the mirror and see the imperfections and the character flaws that you have and choose to allow the good the good characteristics about yourself to shine instead of the negative ones. The negative ones are there for us when it's appropriate, not for us to just be reckless with. It's there for a defense mechanism when we are intentionally wrong, when we know somebody is wrong. It's to help us fight and defend ourselves, but it's not for us to use to batter people, abuse people in any form or fashion. That's not what it's for. So, anywho, you guys tell me what you think. Leave a comment. Give me your thoughts and opinion on this, and I really do appreciate everybody who watched. Thank you, Kenta, for interacting and for your comments. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and you guys have a great Sunday. God bless. One love, peace, and I'm out like a light. Thank you. It don't ever want to let me out.